In today's world, children are able to access the internet even faster than they can walk or even talk. And as much as the internet is providing an array of educational and entertainment opportunities, the kids are often at risk of being exposed to certain threats like cyberbullying, online predators, and misinformation. That's why parents every day are concerned about what their kids are doing when they log into the internet. With me today, I am excited to be joined by various people. They are going to introduce themselves and tell us a bit about them and what they do and all of that.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Kasina. I am the CEO of Evminet Communication Solutions. I am a family IT consultant. I specialize on child online protection, and I'm also the safety partner for Meta, Google, and TikTok in Sub-Saharan Africa.
My name is Sami Charlie, working for UNICEF Kenya Country Office in the Child Protection section as a Child Protection Officer, tackling violence against children, but also online child sexual exploitation and abuse.
My name is Kawera Mogambi. I handle growth management for M-Pesa Go, which is a product specifically designed for tweens and teens, so that's between the ages of 10 to 17.
Awesome, so let's get right into it. I'm going to start asking you a very personal question. What was your first experience with the internet like, and at around what age were you?
I think for me, Facebook was the first social media platform. Then, of course, Google would help us to navigate and learn. I am proud to say I was one of the people who graduated from the University of Google, learning how to do certain things before I went into campus. So yeah.
I first interacted with the internet in 2008. That is immediately after my university. Yeah, because I completed my university bachelor's degree in June 2008. So that's the time I now began to search and see what actually the internet has.
Yeah. I also say it's when I joined Facebook, so that say maybe around 2008, 2007, if I'm not wrong. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when I really now was on my phone, chatting with friends, as she said.
Of course, poking one another.
Exactly, poking back and forth. I wanted to amass friend requests and friends.
Yeah.
The DMs right now are very embarrassing, but it was a very good
Do you
time
even talk to any of those people that you made, like some of the friends? Really?
Yeah, it's usually people you're
Is it just
in
me?
primary school or high school.
I don't even talk to those ones, and I went to the same school with them. Okay, maybe I'm broken. I think I just did it because I had to. I don't know. As a professional Gen Z, I think I grew up with the internet having already been established because it was started in the 1990s, right? So I can say I was introduced to things like Facebook and Instagram early on, maybe in the late 2000s. I had already joined Facebook. I didn't know what I was looking for. It was just what everyone was doing and Googling things and song lyrics and all that. I can say that was my first experience with the internet. So I was around maybe in my teens, preteens, teens, yes, around the same age that kids actually get a lot involved. Getting from that, what about right now? Like your internet uptake right now, with the age that you are as a grown-up, what is like the consumption like for the internet right now?
My phone sends me my screen time every day. And every week I can see the comparison of how much time I spend on my phone. And I'd say I'm very attached to constantly being chatting with people, seeing what's going on, even work, being able to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So I'd say quite a lot.
Within the 24 hours that we have in a day, I spend maybe 16 to 17 hours on the internet. And I would say 12 hours are work related, but possibly around 4 it could be interactive and social too.
Sami and Evelyn, I know both of you are parents and your kids are between the ages of 12 to 13 years old. Do you let them access the internet? At what age did you let them start using it?
I have 3 kids. The first one is 13, the second one is 8, and the last one is 4. But out of the 3, you realize the one that is at the age of 4 loves the Davis much more than the other 2. So, depending on the standards, it is the responsibility of myself as a parent actually to provide a guidance. But I've learned that that little girl loves very specific content. And this is actually on particularly on the YouTube, which is cartoon, the cartoon videos. So she doesn't move to any other content, but she's very, very specific. So it is my responsibility actually to continue monitoring what she looks into the Davis. The other one is actually 13 years, who actually looks into the gaming much more than even the YouTube. Yes, so secondly, I think he was also doing his KCPE this year, and he could stay with the phone to late night because there's a lot of research that they are also looking into. So it is upon me also to look in the morning and try to check what is it that if there are any tracks in terms of the history on what content this little boy was doing with the phone.
They started using computers very early because they play chess at 5 a.m. in the morning. They are online playing chess, yes.
5 a.m.?
Yes. And as a techie and somebody who is a practitioner on safety, I have put enough controls. My daughter, before they agreed to start playing chess at 5, she could only access her computer from 7. And then it shuts down at some point. So I have those controls, but I have taught them integrity because I'm not always with them, that you have stopwatches, you can just time yourself.
How have you been able to manage this balance between, letting them know that they can still use the internet with restrictions, and how have you maintained that open line of communication with them? Like, did it take a long process, or was it just something that you started from the get-go?
It's something that is very interesting, and it is for very many parents. At the very beginning, when children start to interact with the internet, you would want to snatch the devices out of them so that they cannot access them. As a parent, I came to learn that they cannot also live without these devices. So at some point, we had to have a conversation and understand that these devices are very necessary because technology is part and parcel of our daily lives.
We also create a screen time schedule for when they're on holiday so that at least they get to know, I'm not waking you up at a certain time. So when you wake up, these are the chores you're supposed to do. Get into the computer, you have breaks at certain points. So I've let them try to have that schedule work by having the grace that if it's hard for me to also control my own screen time, I would know it's difficult for them. So I have grace.
Kamira, maybe, though it's not from a parent's perspective, I'm guessing you're active, like you just said, you're active on social media. Maybe you have social media accounts on Instagram and whatnot. And let's say you're hanging out with maybe your siblings or your friends or relatives' friends, and they have kids, right? Do you post them, and why not?
I do post my family, and it's more of a group setup, saying I'm hanging out with loved ones and whatnot. So when it comes to my personal life, I think I have the consent from my sisters and brothers.
Of course.
But at work, there's definitely consent that needs to be given.
And do you guys post your kids?
From the very beginning, it's exciting actually to post photos with your family.
Milestones and
Everything,
But with the consequences and with the issues coming up with the internet, stealing of identity and all sorts, at some point you had to reflect and consider and say, no, we have to take this action even when it is actually very difficult.
I stopped posting because my son told me, he had me talking about digital footprint, and when I was giving the definition, I said a footprint could be something that is posted on your behalf by somebody intentionally or unintentionally. And it was like, now that I am growing and I can say yes or no, I think before you post, you have to ask for permission and you have to show me what you're posting. I don't post their faces or anything, but like when they say something very funny, I'll be like, can I tweet that? It's like my son said, so it's just be like text.
Yes.
But I had to stop posting them.
This just brings me to the next one. Do you think parents are still very iffy, for lack of a better word, regarding child online protection and what they can do to protect their children online?
When we look at some of the findings of one of the very important studies that have been conducted on disrupting harm study done in 2018, you will realize that a majority of the parents are actually fearful. And they also think that their children are much more informed than themselves. So that in it demonstrates that they do not have the necessary skills and capacities actually to be able to support their children actually to navigate through the internet. So there are quite a number of things that we need to do. And I would give an example of UNICEF, which has supported the government to develop what we call the National Positive Parenting Program. And generally this is actually to improve the capacities of parents in terms of how do they support their children in terms of child online safety. We have worked with the Department of Social Development in which we have highlighted some of the key areas in which a parent can actually be able to learn. And some of these things are what we were speaking about, open communication. You speak to your children openly and be able to get that trustworthy from your children.
The millennials, like the 90s kids who grew up with the internet, do they still fall under this statistic? Because, they grew up with the internet. So for them, when they get children, or the ones who already have children, it might be easier for them to control what their kids are doing online because they themselves were exposed to the internet.
As a millennial, I think, yes. We were exposed to the internet much earlier. And even now, you tell there's a lot more in terms of what we know about the internet and what we can do. So that way you have a lot more knowledge and you're able to just pass that down and protect your child a bit better. While my parents then would have limited knowledge of what the internet can do. So can only tell you, letter your SIM, bring that phone, don't do this, don't do that, instead of guiding you in terms of what can you use the internet for versus how can it take you down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so you can give better guidance.
And I don't know, how do you guys keep up with online trends?
Befriend your child, they'll teach you.
Okay.
Yeah. They know better.
That's true.
Because I'll give an example. I'm not on Snapchat, but I learn more about Snapchat from even the kids I teach.
Kawira, how has the company ensured that children are protected online? What are some of the steps that it has taken or initiatives that it has taken up?
We did research back in 2017, 18, and we saw that a lot of parents actually buy a second line for their child. So A, they've given them a phone and a line, and B, they're even giving them M-Pesa, and these kids are actually transacting around. So we thought, how can we come in and be able to empower them in terms of being able to be financially smart as early as 10 to 17. So based on research, we actually found there are kids within that age group and they have phones and they're using M-Pesa. So then how can we come in and teach them how to use that money in a smart way? So this is how M-Pesa Go was born. So M-Pesa Go is a product specifically for that age group, and parents are very involved. I like what you guys are talking about in terms of also parental control, where you don't just give them something and leave them, right? So there's an extent of parental control. So for parents who are already empowering their children with some money, some pocket money, you can guide them on how to use it. We introduce features such as financial literacy. We're able to do things like boot camps around schools, just to help them learn a lot more about money itself. So by the time they're turning 18, they're a lot more wiser than we were.
I know you said regarding M-Pesa Go that, the workshops and everything, how do you ensure that it reaches parents in the informal settlements? Because you find they're not using smartphones, but their kids can be able to access the internet again. So how do you think these workshops can be able to reach these parents, like in depth?
It comes down to education and education drives that we do across Kenya. So in particular with people in mashinani, as you're calling it, it's really, again, a community responsibility where we come in and we talk about, the internet and what it enables you to do, but also some of the dangers. But as she said, there's still a lot more to be done in terms of parents actually understanding what it is that their kids can do. And as you said, for us millennials, it's much easier than older parents.
Yes.
So for those kids, we also have a platform, for example, for what do you call them, post-teens, so from 18 to around 24, going all the way across Kenya, called SHOOK, which we launched recently. So there's a lot of content there and a lot of community, building a community that's responsible online as well. So we do push that message also into that age group.
Plus, I also love what Safaricom does in terms of when we talk about mashinani, they really get into mashinani and even translate vernacular, so that person who really does not understand English feels like they're part of that process. I love that, and I find those are one of the strengths we have as a country, that we are able to translate things very fast for the person who maybe Swahili or English is not their first language.
Within UNICEF, we are designing a program to ensure that we touch the right buttons, that the target should actually be the teachers, the target should be the children, and the target should be the parents. So those are our focus areas where we are trying to hit to ensure that we actually minimize the online threats. Because without being so strategic, then we can actually be all over, everywhere, and not be able to realize the achievements that we really want to see.
So can you take us through maybe some of what you do in depth regarding your line of work with IvMinet? I know you mentioned it during the introduction, but maybe just going a bit deeper into it.
I work with big tech companies, so I work with Meta, TikTok, and Google as an online safety partner within Sub-Saharan Africa for policy training, customizing content into the African space, in the African context. so that if it's a global policy, just looking at how it can integrate here, it can be sensible here. Also just creating awareness on the privacy and security that is on platforms, so that yes, we allow our children to be on those platforms, they feel safe, and if they're not feeling safe, they know what to do.
So, Sami, as you've worked in UNICEF, what are some of the policies that you guys have taken up to ensure that children are protected when they're online?
UNICEF, where we stand, we work with the government many times. And there are quite a number of legislations that have been enacted by the government. And first of all, I may pinpoint the Computer Misuse and Cybersecurity Act of 2018, which is one of the laws that was launched to try and curb some of these online threats that we have on a day-to-day basis.
Child online safety is now one of the biggest conversations we can say that should be happening right now, because I know kids are very protected in Kenya, with so many laws protecting them. It's about now engaging more parents to be part of this conversation. Not just parents, also society, the private sector, like it's everyone's game right now to protect children online. What can you say are some of the ways that we can push this agenda to even the parents who are not active on social media, but their kids are?
Katha, if I may jump in, because there are some key highlights which are actually very necessary, is where do we report such cases when they happen? Something like the child helpline 116, it is a place that they can actually be able to report.
Right. So what can you say are some of the ways that we can push this agenda to even the parents who are not active on social media, but their kids are?
I keep saying be interested in what your children are interested in. I'll give an example of what Meta has done. They partnered with the missing child, NEC, to create a site called Take It Down. And what that site does is that children can upload, inappropriate content, so that people are not able to start cross-sharing it in other platforms. So if I send it to you, you can send it to anybody else in any other platform. And that really protects, because again, as I said, you can be friends today and then tomorrow you're not friends. I think there's somebody the other day who, in panic, somebody stole their phone, and then the first thing that came to their mind was, I have inappropriate content I was sharing with my boyfriend, and it's in that phone. What will happen if whoever has stolen, and this is an adult, the first thing you'll be like, go report. Another person will be like, if you have your Gmail email address top of your head, go somewhere and change it very quickly. You get, because maybe those things are in cloud, but maybe they're not. So it is just understanding that as an adult or as a parent, as a guardian, you have such responsibility when it comes to duty of care. So just be interested. You cannot say I'm not on TikTok, so I won't be bothered. What happens when it is your child who is being bullied on TikTok and you have no idea how it looks like? So just be interested.
This has been a very educative session. I don't know about you, but I have learned a lot. So for all parents, guardians, and caregivers, I hope this will also be as educational for you and interactive. And for more questions, you can reach out to Evelyn Kasina and Sami Chale, as well as Kawera Mugambi. This has been Safaricom Newsroom, and I will see you next time.